More projects. Oh well, since we're quarantined, I might as well keep busy one way or another. So I'm up here at my uncle's shop today. These are both of his 318's here, the 85 and the 86. A couple familiar faces. I've shown these in plenty of previous videos. They've both been giving him a little bit of trouble since they were sitting all winter. He just got them out of hibernation today, and they both have a couple little issues that need to be worked out, so I'm up here working on them for them. So I guess first we'll start with actually we'll go over here and start with this one first. This is the 85 318 that I used to own. Some of you guys may remember it. I bought this tractor back in summer of 2017, and I sold it to my uncle in December of 2017 after fixing it up and doing a couple repairs to it. Like, I had to redo the whole electrical system. I had to change a couple leaking seals in the rear end. I replaced the firewall foam and put new points and condenser on the engine and just kind of went over it. And he's gotten plenty of good use out of this tractor, as you can see. I'm not sure how many hours he's put on it because the hour meter glass somehow broke off. Not really sure how that's possible since the hour meter is under the hood, but he has been getting a lot of good use out of this tractor. Looks a little bit rougher than when I sold it to him, but around here, all the equipment gets used. It gets, run through the nursery and through the woods, and gets used for a bunch of different jobs. So I say he got his money's worth out of it. So it looks a little bit different than when I sold it to him. Paint's not quite as nice as it used to be. It's sporting a 3-point hitch now. My uncle has a lot of 3-point hitch attachments that he pulls with his tractors, so I had to find him a Cat 0 3-point hitch. This came off of a 322, I believe, and he's been getting plenty of good use out of it. And he's done a couple little odd repairs to it here and there. He repainted the two parts of the dash tower that I didn't touch. They were still in the original paint when I owned the tractor. A couple other modifications he's done were mostly electrical. He has a lot of odd accessories that he runs on the tractor, like a sprayer and a couple other things, so he added a couple extra switches. I think he added this switch here for like a preheater, because when I sold him the tractor, the carburetor was a little gummed up. It needed to be cleaned and rebuilt, so the engine was a little bit hard to start when it was cold. So I believe he added this thing here to act as like a preheater. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but so I thought that was a little interesting mod. You can see he added a couple fusible links in the wiring there. And for his electric motor-driven sprayer, he ran an extra wiring harness to the rear. You'll notice the 86 also has that same harness. So, he's a farmer. He's going to do, farmer-style modifications to his tractor to make it fit his needs. So he's been, just changing it to fit his the tasks he does around here. But he has gotten plenty of good use out of it. Right now we have it torn apart because it's got an electrical issue. Oddly enough, it started right up after sitting all winter. He took it out, drove it up to the house to eat breakfast, and when he came back out, it wouldn't turn over. It would just click. So I figure I have to do some voltage tests soon and see what's actually causing the problem, but I figure it's either a bad solenoid or the time delay module is causing issues. On these 318s, the time delay module can sometimes cause a delay in power getting to the starter. So there's a starter improvement relay kit you can buy. It's like, I think it's like 35 or 40 bucks from Deere, and most people install them right here by the starter. My 318 has one installed there. It basically just boosts the voltage. It eliminates the voltage drop from the key switch to the starter. So we may have to look into that for this tractor. I'm not quite sure if that kit is designed to work on these older tractors with the B43 engine that has points instead of electronic ignition. But I have heard of people wiring them up on these earlier models, so I may have to give that a shot. But I'm not going to do anything until I do some voltage tests and verify that it's, or at least rule out that the solenoid is good, because it may just be a bad solenoid. I'm not completely sure. But anyway, that's just what the tractor looks like now. Yeah, it's a little bit uglier, but he's getting plenty of use out of it. You can see on this side here, he also added a custom cup holder to the hood. Gotta have somewhere to put that cup of coffee. So he couldn't put one of those magnetic cup holders on the fenders because he runs this through the nursery rows, and the tree branches are always scraping right up against the fenders, so it probably would have just gotten knocked right off. Otherwise, the tractor seems to be running pretty good. It served him very well. It's still leaking from the rear end for some reason. We can't really figure out why, but he just keeps topping off the fluid, and it's working fine. I think the gasket between the two, or between the main diff and the cover on the side is actually leaking, so I'm not sure if somebody had it apart in the past and didn't seal it back up properly or what. But it's still got a leak in the rear end, so maybe one of these days we'll tear that apart and fix it the right way. But otherwise, it's been a pretty good tractor for him, as you can see here. One of these days I want to get a video of me mowing with it. I haven't had the chance to mow with this thing because the deck that I got with it was in pretty rough shape. So I think he usually runs the 50-inch deck on this tractor, and he says his plans are to just run this, or run the EZ-Vac lawn vacuum with this one. And then we'll move over to the 86 here. I've got plenty of videos on this tractor as well. He bought this one brand new, and it's got, I estimate, somewhere around 4,500 to 5,000 hours, judging by the amount of hours he puts on it every year. He put that hour meter on it in 2013, and that's how many hours it's racked up in about 7 years. So if that gives you any idea how much this thing gets used, it just gets used for all the odd jobs around here. So the problem with this one was it wasn't charging the battery. It was he said towards the end of last season he had to keep jump starting it. And the battery that was in it was no good, so I actually swapped the battery out of the 85 318 into this one, and it fired right up. But the battery light was staying on, so I just tore the side panel off, and I found out that the this wire here going to the voltage regulator from the stator was practically hanging off with a prong there on the regulator, and the plastic connector piece that goes around it was actually melted. So it wasn't making a good connection, so I just cut the plastic part off and put it back on, and I'm going to run it around a little bit and just make sure that it's not, it's not draining the battery still. But that was an easy fix. I was kind of afraid that I'd have to pull the engine out and change the stator like I just did on my 782 Onan engine, but I think we might be okay. For the past couple of years, my uncle has been dealing with the dreaded Onan surge, and he replaced the carburetor. Originally, it was surging because this is a Linamar replacement engine, and it had the emissions carburetor with the crappy accelerator pump on it. So we replaced it with an original Onan carburetor with no accelerator pump, and it ran fine for a while, and then it started surging again. So he's had it apart a couple different times here and there, and I convinced him that it has the dreaded Onan surge because the intake manifold is leaking. So that's what I'm working on right now, just taking everything apart to get the intake manifold off. I have the Onan in my 782 torn apart to reseal the intake manifold as well, so I figured this one should be a piece of cake to take apart. And then hopefully once we split that intake manifold and reseal it, we'll never have any issues with it again, because it's definitely a pain. A lot of people don't know that on these Onans, but I'd say probably 4 out of 5 times if you have a surge, it's because of the intake manifold leaking and not because of a dirty carburetor. Sometimes you can get away with a carb cleaning, but that's not always the case. So that's why we have it torn apart right now. I just have to run it a little bit more and see if fixing that connector on the regulator fix the charging issue or not. But this one still gets plenty of use. This one mows and runs the tiller since it has the rear PTO on it, as you can see. I've said it in the past, but we put the rear PTO on back in summer of 2017, and this 3-point hitch has actually been on the tractor since it was new. It was installed at the dealer when my uncle bought it back in '86. I also found out that for years I had thought he had a 316 before he got this 318, but it turns out he actually had a 317. My buddy Drew actually looked up a couple old dealership records for me, and I found out that he used to own a 317. So the story he gave me on the 317 was it had a twin-cylinder Kohler engine that one of the hired hands was running it in the nursery mowing one day, and ran it out of oil or ran it on a hillside or something and caused it to break a rod, which is very common with the Kohler KT17 Series 1 engines. And that, if it was a 317, it would have had a Series 1 engine because that tractor was bought new in '81. They didn't start putting Series 2 engines in the 317s until '82. So that makes sense why it would have why the engine would have blown up or broken a rod. It was very common at that time, and a lot of people were actually trading their 317s in on 318s. So sometime in late 85 or early 86, he traded that one in on this new 318, and he's definitely got his money's worth out of this one. And this one is actually supposed to go to me someday. And I was thinking about doing a ground-up restoration on it, but honestly, I think I may just leave it in its work clothes and just do a mechanical restoration. You know, rebuild the engine, rebuild the hydro, redo all the hydraulics, the steering, you know, whatever it needs, because it's got plenty of things that need attention. But it just keeps on ticking like a Swiss watch. So I got plenty of videos on this tractor too, so if you haven't seen them, go check it out. So between these two tractors and my projects back home, we've got plenty of things to keep us busy. So I'm going to work on getting this intake manifold resealed in this one, and getting the electrical issue figured out with this one, which really shouldn't be too hard. It could only be, from what I figure, it could only be two things: a bad solenoid, or it just needs a starter improvement kit. So I'll get it figured out one of these days. But since we're all stuck inside, now's the time to be working on our projects. So none of us have an excuse to have any unfinished projects by the time this whole virus mess is over. So figure it's the start of the season, so we're trying to get all of our tractors ready to go anyway. These tractors have to maintain about 7 acres of lawn and a couple more acres of nursery and overgrowth in the woods. So they live a hard life, but he gives them all the maintenance they deserve, so that's why they keep running. So just thought I'd give you guys an update. It's been a while since I've shown the 85 318 in a video, but this is what it looks like now. A little bit different than the last time you guys saw it, a little bit different than what you may remember, but it's still getting used, still getting plenty of hours put on it each year, and I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll get a video mowing with it. My uncle's actually looking to purchase a third 318 to add to his fleet so he doesn't have to keep switching attachments. So I think I may make another video once we get that third 318 in here. That tractor is currently getting fixed up. I have a line on it. We just have to find a 3-point hitch and a mower deck for it, so we're still looking. But pretty soon I'll make a video once we get that tractor in here. So I just wanted to make an update for you guys so you could see a couple more 318s in the family, and soon to add a third one. So thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And as always, stay tuned for more.